Item number 27 is the Pinellas County Foundation, Pinellas Community Foundation's recommendations for award of grants for the highest ranked applicants on the first round of small purchases funded by the American Rescue Plan Funding Capital Projects Fund. As you know, we established through the Community Foundation committees to address and to reach out to small nonprofits. This is the first two rounds. The first round is for nonprofits with annual operating budgets of $500,000 and under, and the second grouping is nonprofits with operating budgets over $500,000. This is a total of $2.25 million. The attachments are here, and the Community Foundation is here to answer any questions regarding.
Are we going to have a presentation at all, or commission?
Come on up.
Leave it to the commissioners if they want one.
I would like,
Yeah, I would like to see a little.
I was looking to see who was
Okay,
here.
yeah, we like a presentation. We went
Oh,
to,
I didn't see you back there.
come on up.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm David Bender. I'm with Pinellas Community Foundation. I'm the director of grants. Duggan sends his apologies. He couldn't be here today, so I'm here representing. This was a very competitive grant process, as you can see. For these small purchases, we received 80 requests, totaling $6.5 million for these small capital purchases. 30 days were given, starting on August 8th, and it ran to September 8th. Those eligible proposals were sent to committees that were constituted of a diverse set of people, both by identity and where they were in the county. We had representation from as north as Tarpon Springs down to South St. Pete. They met over 2 days, 2 separate meetings. Those meetings were accessible to the public. Nonprofits were invited to attend as well to answer any questions that committee members might have. And they generated these recommendations totaling $2.25 million for a total of 34 requests to be funded.
Are there questions? Can you walk us through some of the criteria and the ranking so that, for example, and I'm not going to call it specifics, but an organization I've never heard of in my life was on the list for funding an organization I know very well, not on the list for funding, both for the same particular item that they were requesting funding for.
Absolutely. So the crux of this funding was the negative economic impact suffered by the pandemic. They could not move forward in the process without establishing that the pandemic had harmed them and that that harm had remained unresolved. Then we looked at their presence in the community, the need for their services, the tie between that negative economic impact and the capital purchase they were proposing. So, for example, if they saw increased service demand, and they couldn't compensate it in their budget or through because of other fiscal pressures they were facing, this purchase had to resolve that in some way. And that was really the main lens that the committee looked at.
Further questions? Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, just along the same lines, and I see, one of them that you see a lot of is vans. And there's, somebody's getting $88,000 for vans, and then you go to the list of people that didn't get anything, and there are van requests. So, instead of giving it, I don't know what the request was for that group, but let's just say
Right.
split, spreading that out a little bit so that all of them are getting a little bit of help with the vans, because those are critically important to all these organizations. So just, again, a little bit more thought.
Of course, again, it's tied to that negative economic impact and what was suffered as well.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you? Just,
Sure.
How did they demonstrate the negative economic impact? Because
Oh, sure.
that is the
Yeah.
dividing line between getting a van or not getting a van in this
So,
case.
possible ways to demonstrate that was inflationary pressures. So smaller nonprofits may have suffered greater inflationary pressures. There was also less requests in that small pool, which is why some nonprofits that maybe don't recognize were awarded. There were less requests in that pool. In the larger one, there were 55 requests. So going back to the economic impact, inflationary pressures, increased service demand that wasn't compensated through other means. Some pandemic relief funding did not allow capital purchases or expired. So that were some ways to display negative economic impact.
Okay. Further questions?
So, can I bring up one
Absolutely. Yeah,
specific?
Commissioner Eggers.
Metropolitan Ministries wanted a refrigerator food truck, and so did Feeding Tampa Bay. One got it and one didn't. Just
I would have to have the specific applications in front of me as well as the scores.
Did we receive the scores?
No, but we did discuss the criteria back at the work session in July, what they would be evaluated on. It might have been service area as well. That was also a very large criteria on the rubric, where they are serving, in what communities, and if they were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. So that was also taken into consideration. I can't speak to those applications specifically. Again, there were 80.
Sure.
But again, that may have been part of it.
Tarpon Spring Shepherd Center as well, looking for a refrigerated truck. Obviously, being able to move food is extremely important.
Of course.
And that is the north end of the county.
There was a Tarpon Springs recipient of funding in terms of geography. It wasn't for...
In that need?
No, not in food.
And on a separate kind of a side question, when will we remind us the deadline, the timelines for the capital?
For the large. The deadline for that is December 9th. The review committee will meet in January, and those should come before the commission in February.
Okay.
There was a one in here, a request for art studio furniture. Again,
Is that, could you tell me the grantee?
Nomad Studio.
So that is specifically going into the juvenile detention center and providing services to those youth. And they needed furniture to be able to serve them. That they had apparently in their application a makeshift arrangement. And this, due to the pandemic, they were not able to make those purchases. So again, this is repairing that harm caused by the pandemic.
And maybe speak to Studio at 620 as well.
I am not as familiar with their request in particular. Oh, yes, it was. It was,
Seating tables, computers, display
yes.
walls.
So they needed more computers to be able to operate and to be able to make better use of their space. And again, the pandemic had harmed their revenue due to not being able to have as high a capacity or not being able to open it all. And so again, that amplification of capacity repairs that harm.
And their mission is?
Is to increase access to arts and culture for residents.
It's underprivileged residents.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Is to expand that access to underprivileged individuals in South St. Petersburg. Bob Devin Jones and Esther Ellis' husband were the founders of that organization.
And for both the artists and the audience.
And the same with Nomad. It's a spinoff from, I know Leslie Curran and others are involved with Nomad. They got a lot of support from Pinellas County Schools also for the youth in that, but I'm sorry.
No, and we did set the eligibility criteria wide, as we talked about in July, due to the huge variety of nonprofits that we have in the county doing a lot of great work.
For me, at this point, food seems to rise up pretty high
Yeah.
in this area. So, I mean,
It is.
from my standpoint, that would probably have had a little bit more priority than other things, but first of all, appreciate all the work you all did, because I know this was a
absolutely.
very complicated and
We
large undertaking.
We
So,
value this partnership deeply,
Yeah, yeah.
and so does the community.
And to be fair, and I'm in some of those same kind of, but to be fair, we didn't, as a commission, we didn't put those parameters on you, which maybe,
Well,
in retrospect, maybe.
But these are their suggestions. too,
Absolutely.
So it's not.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily what we have to.
They're your suggestions, and also remember, commissioners, we're going to come back, we withheld some funds, and we're going to look at all the different applications, and then we're going to discuss with you how we should allocate those, whether it's small, big, whatever. That is a secondary piece of a discussion we will have.
What is that? What are those dollars that we're talking about?
Do you recall?
A little over $3 million.
Okay, so the amount we're spending today is 2.2,
Yes.
2.25.
2.25.
The two-
For the two lists, there's two
Oh,
lists
that's
there.
right. Yep.
Small and large, small
Got
and
it.
medium
Thank you.
large.
Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. That's what I was going to say, that I knew we were looking at setting aside some dollars for individuals to come back and reapply, because I received a number of calls from organizations who I did not go and read through their application. And one of the things I try not to do is second guess the rater, because they've taken the time. I've served on the board and I have reviewed 80-plus applications, taking the time to rank each one and put my comments about why I chose one over the other if they were comparable. But I will say that some persons did have really good arguments, you know. But I had to tell them that I needed to at least look at the way in which the persons who volunteered to review these applications, and based on what the requirements were, that that who got funded and who was not. And I did encourage them to please reapply. So my question is, for those who did not receive funding recommendation this time, were they allowed to reach out to you guys to try to get an idea or a handle as it relates to why they didn't score at a certain cutoff level, and that way they could pay more attention? Because it may be that they qualified, perhaps just the way that they wrote their proposal did not answer the questions completely that were being asked that may have gotten them more points.
Absolutely. We provided any written comment that a committee member left, they were sent. So we copied and pasted from the committee comments, they were sent it. We offered time to meet. We have met with various organizations one-on-one, letting them know, here's what you could do better next time. And if they are eligible, please come back. We mean that. We also offer ample technical assistance where they can come discuss their idea with us, and we can give them suggestions on how to strengthen their proposal. If they bring us a draft, we offer that technical assistance.
I think that's great. And I guess to the extent that we can, because I was thinking originally it'd be good just keep their applications in, but obviously if the application had some shortcomings or some suggestions from you all to improve.
They won't have to type everything again. We can certainly copy it over and they can strengthen.
Strengthen. Thank you.
Further questions?
Oh, Jesus.
And, and I think I mentioned this at
Oh.
Commissioner Peters. Is that a hand raised or a?
No, I mean,